Okay, are we ready to go? Yeah, welcome everybody. Give it just a minute or two just to see if any more people want to join. I'm Arthur Nicholl, I'm one of the vice chairs of the Unison Scottish Local Government Committee. We have with us tonight Mo Dixon, who's one of our regional officers that helps to lead on local government, and my fellow vice chair Brenda Aitchison, and one of our other local government committee members and member of the steering group, Marie Quigley, is also here, and we will of course have our guest speaker Scott Donohoe coming in a little minute. Just to obviously this is the third of our town halls that we've done in connection with our largely about our pay campaign, but also the fact that there are a lot of other related issues that relate to pay in terms and conditions across local authorities and the related employers in Scotland. We'd obviously like to make sure that people are remembering to participate in the current industrial action ballot that we've got going. Just a reminder to people to look out for that purple envelope to make sure that you're getting that ballot paper completed and returned, because of the employment, the anti-union legislation that says that we have to get over 50% of ballot papers returned for any kind of industrial action vote to count, even if we had 100% yes. If we have 49.9% ballots returned, that's not enough for us to take industrial action. We need to get over that 50%, which is where I would say everybody really should just return their ballot paper and make sure that is not an issue for us. So please do that, and please make sure your workmates do that as well. One of the big issues, we've dealt with things like local government funding, etc. But one of the other big issues that affects us because of the years-on-years cuts to our to the staffing levels in local government across Scotland is, of course, the issue of fewer and fewer people being asked to do more and more. And I'm not afraid to say that one of our kind of certainly an expert in health and safety within the trade union movement in Scotland, certainly within Unison, our good friend Scott Donohoe is here today, and he's going to talk to us for a little bit about some of the issues relating to that, how we organise around that, and how we can use the law and organising to help us fight for against the polling impact of understaffing and overwork. So, Scott, if you'd like to join us, it'd be great to hear what you've got to say tonight. Thanks, and there'll be time for questions at the end. Thanks. On you go, Scott.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Arthur, and evening, everyone. So I'm just going to take you a wee whistle-stop tour through work-related stress and overwork. An example, a case study, how we tackle it, etc., etc. So should be about 10, no more than 15 minutes, because I'm conscious we'll want to get a Q&A. So give me 2 seconds and I'll share my screen. Right. Can people see that okay?
Yeah, it's on the screen now, Scott.
It's on the screen now. Good. Right, I'll just go into slideshow then, Arthur. Okay. Excellent. All right. So we're going to look at stress and overwork. So just some context around this. As we know, the last 10, 15 years, public sector's been under attack. Budgets slashed everywhere. We've seen a significant increase in workload for our members, as Arthur alluded to. We've also seen a significant increase in bad management. That's an understatement. Morale and a climate of fear in many of our workplaces. The issue of training, or lack of it, for line managers and supervisors. We've seen an increase in our casework in terms of stress, bullying and psychosocial risks, ill treatment and longer hours, which has resulted in many of our branches, our officers and activists dealing with significant absence and capability issues. In some of these cases, it's resulted in our members being forced out the door because they're too ill to work. So that's some context over the last 10 to 12 years, as we know. And the current budget settlement is not showing signs of things getting any better. But just some context then, this is the regulator's figures for 2023 in terms of work-related ill health As you can see, 1.8 million workers suffer from work-related ill health, 672,000 suffering from new cases of work-related ill health, nearly 32 million days lost, and 13,000 deaths due to past exposure to primarily chemicals and dust. Work-related stress, depression, anxiety has increased post-pandemic quite significantly, as you can see. Again, 870,000 workers suffering from work-related stress, depression and anxiety, 338,000 new cases, and nearly over 17 million days lost due to work-related stress, depression and anxiety. A lot of it in the public sector, as we know. In terms of Scotland for 2023, you can see there 136,000 workers suffering from work-related ill health, 32,000 workers with MSDs, 80,000 workers suffering work-related stress. Again, 67,000 new cases, and a cost to the country of just under 2 billion, which is a huge amount of money, isn't it? Particularly in a lot of these cases where, if it was properly managed, then a lot of this could be avoided. So the figures are quite sobering. So I'm just going to give you a quick background to this, an area where we've operated and got results. This was a few years ago in Glasgow City Council, a revenues and benefits service. At the time, around 300 staff, a key frontline service, processing council tax and house and benefit claims. At the time, city centre and local offices, most of the local offices are now gone. And obviously helping and assisting a vulnerable client group. So at the time, one of the workplace issues was increasing number of house and benefit, council tax benefit claims, increasing customer numbers, fewer resources, a reduction in staffing levels, management styles and behaviour, and just a general feeling of a lack of support in the areas where our members were operating. So those were some of the key issues. So what we've done there, the local trade union safety rep received complaints. We had a meeting with members in the branch, gave out information packs to members, gained agreement to distribute the health and safety executive questionnaire, agreed a timescale for completion and return, quite a high return rate, no surprise. We put the input into the analysis tool, produced results, and had a time-bound action plan, and obviously consulted properly with the members. Again, collecting information, looking at primary and secondary data such as sickness absence stats, staffing levels, disciplinary figures, grievance figures and categories, exit interview data, I'll come back to that, and potential hotspots. Again, looking at employer statistics, absence due to psychological issues, occupational health referrals for psychological issues, occupational health referrals not work-related, counselling figures, again, work-related, and any stress claims outstanding or settled. This is the type of information we need to be digging into. What do we use then? Now, these have been about since 2004, the Health and Safety Executive Management Standards. So looking at stress risk assessment. For an occupational group, you're looking at demands, such as workload and work patterns control, support, relationships, role, and change. Those are the 6 key components of assessing risks to our members in terms of workplace stress and psychological risks. These are the ones we use for the industry standard. That's what they should be getting used everywhere. So once we get the questionnaires in, we look at the focus groups. We set up focus groups. In this example, we use 2 focus groups, 2 senior managers heading up the focus groups, 2 unison safety reps in each group, importantly, and corporate health and safety team involved in it. So in terms of the questionnaires and the focus group findings, what were the findings? So not surprisingly, unrealistic work demands, high staff turnover, workload imbalance, poor training, workstations and hot desking, lack of support, staff meetings. You can see the list there. Again, social interaction, laughter being discouraged. That was one of the information we got in the questionnaires. Managers not being trained properly, and the draconian absence management policies causing a climate of fear. So So we went back to the department with our findings, obviously, and we sat down and reviewed and came up with a work plan, which again, a lot of the bullet points, the review of work allocations to ensure fairness, integration of private landlord and housing association teams. All the team meetings have to be minuted. That was another issue. Revising complaints procedures, ensuring exit questionnaires are completed, filling of vacancies, review of training, and again a quarterly forum with unison input and their comms strategy to be revised. That's just a snapshot. There was a lot more to that, but that was a lot of the key issues or the key measures to try and tackle stress in this area. So in terms of employers themselves, the specific duties, what do we need to look at? Well, it helps if they've got a stress policy in the first place. Have we been involved and consulted on it? Has it been implemented? Again, figures. How many SRAs have been completed for occupational groups? Are the policy and statistics discussed at elected member or board level? And our members are aware of the HSE standards, management standards. So I'm going to skip this. I'm just to the first real significant bit of case law on this was the Walker case at the top of this slide. This was John Walker, who was a social worker in the Northumberland Council, who had a breakdown because of high workloads. I mean, off sick. They come back with a promise from the council that they would look at it. If they come back and they've done nothing, he had a second breakdown. Now, the second breakdown triggered the legal action, and the council was sued by Unison and our lawyers, successful. And John Walker was paid a substantial amount of compensation, but to be honest with you, it didn't rectify the psychological damage that was done. So that was quite a groundbreaking case, that one, the John Walker case. And the subsequent cases that have been successful, some of the key bits have been about the individual putting in writing their concerns and raising with the employer the workload issues, particularly in Daw and Dickens. Quickly, and this was a case study, West Dorset NHS Trust, Health and Safety Executive. This was a complaint where nurses within the NHS were leaving in droves and joining another trust across the border in another county. What they done was, when they were resigning, they sent a letter stating why they were leaving the trust, and reason for resignation at the exit interviews. But they kept the exit interview data, and they actually put a group complaint into the local Health and Safety Executive Office, who investigated it. The trust tried to deny it, but all the evidence was there. So they got an improvement notice served them in December 2003, basically telling them that they had to come up with an occupational group stress risk assessment, looking specifically at workload issues within the trust. Okay, so just to summarise some of the member issues we're dealing with in our casework, you can see them there. A lot of our absence casework is round about this. Again, ill treatment and lack of respect within the workplace. Again, a lot of that's coming down to lack of training for line managers and supervisors. The ACAS guidance around what a healthy workplace should look like. Again, confident and properly trained managers, appropriate use of occupational health, early intervention techniques. Again, all this is second nature to us. A good management of common health issues, mental health, stress, musculoskeletal disorders. So our branch campaign, which we've obviously sent out and other branches have adopted it, Western Bartonshire being one of them. In Glasgow, our No to Overwork campaign, again, looking at ensuring robust workload management schemes, properly managing monitor local work demands, and collectivising the issue. Now, within the homelessness case team and social work, we went out and strike 2015 around workloads, a successful strike about getting more resources in. And again, we sent out leaflets. Again, you can see that one there, say no to overwork. And again, in an A5 leaflet and A5 posters, again, giving our members the confidence to say no and to lodge grievances where necessary. using the health and safety legislation via our safety reps, and so on and so forth. And again, we've been successful in a number of areas challenging this, because as we go further on, we see that local government is bearing the brunt of these cuts. Why should their members have to face excessive workloads and overwork and then be, as a result, going off sick and their jobs being threatened? They're saying no, enough's enough. So that's some of the materials we used. Again, for branches across Scotland and beyond, again, looking at raising awareness amongst the members, training and development of our activists, absolutely. Do your workplace safety inspections and union inspection notices. Looking at your stats and information, concerns must be lodged in writing, absolutely, particularly in individual cases. Again, this should be a standing agenda item at your local and strategic health and safety committees. Put the employer on notice if they're non-compliant. We may need to involve the HSE if a particular employer is not going to conform with the law. And again, in a lot of areas, we've used national and local publicity to say we're going to take them on. Okay, I'll wrap up now, and obviously if there's any questions. But again, ensure employers are fully implementing stress management standards contained within the policy. Ensure stress management is discussed at a high level with the employer, and a joint commitment to a full and effective identification and eradication of causes of work-related stress. A risk assessment approach across the board in all the workplaces, and again, supporting our activists through training and development to keep on tackling this. And happy to take any questions, Arthur. I will stop sharing if that's all right. It's a whistle stop tour, but hopefully there's enough time for some questions. All right, thanks.
Ricky, I forgot to unmute. Thanks very much, Scott. Quite a sweeping talk there, but people could be aware the recording will be going up on our website. If people want to look back at the slides, they can certainly do that, and we'll maybe put a link to your slides or something into that post as well. Got some time for some questions. What we've got? Got one from Tom. How do you establish or determine whether workloads are unreasonably high? Scott, do you have any ideas on that one?
Yeah, good question, Tom. I mean, it will depend on. Well, it will depend on the area of work. Will depend on the service that's being delivered. So, for example, within the homeless casework team and social work, they come up with an agreement with management that nobody at any point would have any more. I think it was 32 was the number in terms of casework at any one time. At that point, there was people sitting with 50 and 55 and 60 cases. So they negotiated that would be up to 32. Doesn't mean you need to be sitting with 32. So within that area, Arthur, that's what was thrashed out in that service. And obviously they recruited more staff to help deal with the homelessness crisis, as we know. So within other areas, I mean, a lot of stuff's been automated now. The revenues and benefits was one of the areas that I'd looked at that would use the management standards in the questionnaire. Again, recruiting more staff is one of the areas now. Somebody will probably say to me, well, the budget's going to cut, we're not going to recruit more staff, which is a fair point. But again, it comes down to meeting with local management around that one. The one in homelessness is an easier one to quantify because they come up with that number. In other areas, I think you would look at, and you'd be guided by your members in many respects. If you're having your members meetings and they're saying to you, look, the workload is going through the roof here, then you need to sit down with your members and say, right, okay, let's quantify what the workload is. And again, some of that will come out through your members' meetings. It might come out through grievances. It might come out through the sickness absence data as indicated in the slide. So again, each will depend on the area that you're working in. The one thing I did miss out, Arthur, was in terms of any individual who's suffering from work-related stress, the HSE indicator tool questionnaire should be used. So reps should be making sure the member fills that in, because then you've got evidence in terms of any absence case, and the members are able to state what is causing the stress, whether it is a bad manager or supervisor, whether it is workload, or whether it is any other issue. So I think it's a bit horses for courses, to be honest.
Okay, we're short on time, Scott. Next question I've got here is how would, which maybe relates to what are the first steps that an issue like this? What are the first steps that anybody would take to raise an issue like this in their workplace?
Yeah, good question. Again, I think initially we put it in writing. I think so. If it's a collective issue about overwork or workloads or stress, I think initially we put it in writing. I'll just give you a very quick example. Within the city assessors in Glasgow, we've just gone through another an updated SRA. So initially, when we recruited a new steward out of it, I wrote to the city assessor on this initially last year, raising the main issues that the members had told us about at our meeting. So micromanagement, bad communication, bad approach to absence management. So we wrote to the city assessor in the first instance, and then that triggered further meetings, and then it triggered us going into conducting an occupational group stress risk assessment. So my advice would always be initially need to do it in writing. Must do it in writing.
Would someone have to worry about whether they might be disciplined or that for raising an issue like that?
In my view, no. I think if it's an issue about an individual manager or supervisor, then again, the member wouldn't do that. The member may raise it with the manager, but I think once you've got the unison rep involved and you've established, if it's an ongoing pattern of really poor management, and believe me, I have seen some absolutely horrendous and abysmal examples of bad management over the last umpteen years, then it would then be appropriate for the unison rep probably to write to their senior manager to say, look, we have an issue here, and here's what the issue is. Now, maybe it'll be you advise them to put in a grievance, but you can still write about an individual manager's behaviour towards an individual person or group of members. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah, brilliant. Scott, one last question from Jane. Can illness due to workplace stress be treated as an accident at work?
Good question. Short answer, no. However, there's always a however, isn't there? I mean, work-related stress is not reportable under RIDDOR. That's reporting injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrence regulations. Unison and the STUCT have been campaigning this for 30 years. Now, obviously, previous governments resisted it. The banal excuse was it would open the floodgates for claims. We said no, it wouldn't. It would make sure workplaces were healthier and people wouldn't be getting up with work-related stress. However, well, it might not be reportable under RIDDOR. What I would say is, if you're raising it with a manager or a supervisor, you put on the email this, remember, is off due to work-related stress. That would be the same advice for a fit note. Don't put on depression and anxiety if it's related to work. You say to the GP or say to the member, it must say work-related stress, because there's been no claims in Scotland that I'm aware of that have went to court and been successful. I'm aware of cases that were settled on the 2 hours before it at the court of session. But by that point, Arthur, sometimes the damage can be done psychologically or otherwise. Prevention is the key here. Preventing people going off sick with stress and psychological issues is the key here. But yeah, so we could use that as evidence. So if a claim does go in, we've got a protocol for work-related stress claims. Any emails that the member sends, or the branch, or the unison rep sends, all that can be used as evidence. So yeah, absolutely, get it done. It's not to say that you couldn't have a claim at it, but I would much rather resolve the issue in the shop floor in the first place, because that when the longer it goes on, the more ill our member's going to get. We can't have that. So prevention's always the key. All right.
And that's all about having health and safety reps making that a lot easier in the workplace, isn't it?
100%, mate. 100%. Yes. And well, I'm not just saying this. We have got examples, and over short of time tonight, we're able to give real examples, real life examples where we've done it on a group basis, but also on an individual basis. In one case, I wrote the email for a member, and the member sent it. It was fantastic. Getting bullied, sent it to the bully, and they backed off at a rate of knots because they weren't expecting our member to challenge them, but they did, with our help, of course. But it just shows you in some cases where you do challenge it, then sometimes they'll back off. But again, with trade union support and trade union training and development, yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant, Scott. Okay, thanks. We're going to have to call it a day there because we're keeping these short to about half an hour. Just to absolutely thank Scott for brilliant detailed knowledge there and coming in. Everybody else for coming along and help us to organise tonight. Just a reminder that we are in the middle of that industrial action ballot. Get those purple envelopes picked up. The ballot helpline open today. You can get that. You can contact them on 0800 0857 857 if you need to get a replacement ballot. But if you have got it sitting there, get it filled in and get it returned. And please talk to all your colleagues and your workmates to get theirs sent off. There's Marie coming in there just to wave it. There you are. Oh, sorry, I've just switched it off again. I'll switch it on. There you are. Ah! Right, you switch yourself on. There you go. Marie has got the envelope. That's what you want to send back. And we'll be absolutely glad to know that's been sent back. So look at that purple envelope and get that ballot in. Thanks everybody for tonight, for coming along. Thanks to Scott for his introduction and a great chat. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Another one next week and more to come. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye.